Throughout the years, Nintendo has had many ups and downs. You had the failure of add-ons like the 64DD and the success of handhelds like the DS. But right next to the Wii U, there's one failure that is infamous among Nintendo and gaming fans as a whole: the Virtual Boy. Released and promoted as one of the very first virtual reality game consoles, it definitely took a lot of shortcuts to achieve that goal. And in this video, we're going to take a look back at this console and not only see what made it such a disaster, but how it came to be, and the library of games it holds to truly see if there's anything salvageable about it. So, without further ado, my name is Mariomikester, and welcome to a Virtual Boy retrospective. Development for the Virtual Boy began sometime in 1992, but the actual technology itself goes all the way back to 1985, when a company called Reflection Technology Incorporated developed a red LED eyepiece display called the Scanned Linear Array, or SLA for short. This device, dubbed the Private Eye, had stereoscopic head tracking, meaning you could physically move your head around in games. And in order to develop this technology into a commercial product, Reflection Technology Inc. reached out and demonstrated the device to a bunch of different companies, including Sega, who funnily enough declined it due to worries about motion sickness and the single color red display. Nintendo, however, being the innovators that they are, loved the technology and saw it as something their competitors would have lots of trouble copying. So Nintendo entered an exclusive agreement with Reflection Technology, codenaming the project VR32, encompassing the virtual reality and 32-bit CPU of the machine. For almost 4 years, Nintendo worked to turn the VR32 into an affordable and marketable product, going through many different revisions, however retaining the red screen all throughout due to it being the cheapest LED. Unfortunately though, due to growing concerns of motion sickness and eventually Japan's Product Liability Act of 1995, leaving companies liable if something happened to consumers using their products, the head tracking functionality of the original Private Eye was removed, and instead replaced with the stationary design seen in the final product. And as development wrapped up on the VR32, now called the Virtual Boy, Nintendo was very confident that the system would sell well, even telling reporters that they expected the Japanese market itself to sell 3 million console units and 14 million software units by 1996. And again, this is just Japan that they were saying this for. They were really confident in this. Unfortunately though, this confidence would ultimately be the system's demise, as the increasingly dumbed down technology like the elimination of head tracking and sticking to a single color screen made the Virtual Boy less and less appealing. Alongside that, since Nintendo wanted to reallocate all of its sources to the development of their upcoming home console, the N64, they rushed the final stages of development of the Virtual Boy and pushed it out to market sooner than they wanted to, with the console releasing in Japan on July 21st, 1995. At release, the Virtual Boy launched with 4 games: Mario's Tennis, Red Alarm, Telero Boxer, and Galactic Pinball, with Mario's Tennis being a pack-in title in North America. This was a weird lineup. I mean, what incentive do I have to spend $200 on a console that's launch titles look like this? I can't even tell what's going on half the time here. I think the only saving grace this console had at its release was its controller. It's surprisingly comfortable considering the abomination you're playing on with it, and honestly reminds me a bit of modern VR controllers, with the long grips. Just here they're connected instead of 2 separate controllers. But no matter how comfortable the controller is, I can never get past just how weird it looks. I mean, it really looks like they stuck 2 identical controllers to a battery pack and called it a day. The mirrored design is interesting, but I wouldn't say appealing at all. Who asked for 2 D-pads? And there's the console itself. I can't lie, this thing looks cool as hell. And that's probably the biggest use you'll get out of it. It's a really cool item to have on display, just don't ever turn it on. Jokes aside, they nailed the design here, with modern VR not really changing this much. But then we have the biggest downside, the stand. You see, unless you have a really high table or are just very short, playing the Virtual Boy on its tiny stand is extremely uncomfortable. And I don't see how anybody could play this thing for like more than an hour. And even if you have the perfect height table to play this on without your neck hurting like crazy, the headaches you get from simply playing it are enough to make you want to throw it in the trash. Seriously, eye strain, nausea, headaches, and dizziness were extremely common among Virtual Boy users, and instead of innovating like Nintendo wanted it to, in reality, it pushed the progress of VR back a ton, and I honestly believe without it, we would have saw modern VR progress a lot faster than it eventually did, or at least happen earlier. Now, I will say, although the games look incredibly ugly with how you're seeing it now through 2D, when you're actually playing the system, it's not nearly as bad as it looks. It's not great, but when recording footage for this video, I played it in 2D, and man was it a lot different than when I actually played it on the console. Then there's the games. In total around the world, 22 games were released. However, here in North America, we only got 14. And while I won't be able to cover all 22, I do want to highlight some of the best. Starting off with Mario Clash. This is a weird one, but I did have a good time with it. The game basically expands the Mario Bros. Arcade game to the third dimension. You have two main layers, the background and the foreground. And in the Virtual Boy, this game is easily one of the best at simply showing off the different layers and how they can be used in different games. I'm surprised this wasn't a pack-in, considering how simple it is, but effective at demonstrating the technology. Your goal is to pick up shells and throw them at enemies. Simple enough, right? Well, there's actually some technical aspects to it. You see, not only can you chain together hits to get multiple enemies at once, you can also throw the shell to and from the foreground to the background to defeat certain enemies. I actually didn't know this until I was getting footage for this video, as when I played this on the Virtual Boy, I got stuck at level 3 because I couldn't defeat the Spinies. I would not recommend playing this game in 2D though. Past like level 4, it gets really hard to distinguish the foreground from the background, and while in the Virtual Boy this is conveyed very well, it is not in 2D. So if you want to play this, get an actual Virtual Boy. Overall, it's a decent arcade style game, but it's nothing compared to the next game we talk about. Next up is Virtual Boy Wario Land, and man, this is a good one. I've never really been the biggest Wario Land fan, but I had a lot of fun with this game. I think its biggest strength is that it's an actual full-fledged adventure, and not just a gimmicky one-trick experience like most Virtual Boy games. The game takes advantage of the 3D effect by again having a background and a foreground, with some enemies and obstacles switching back and forth between it, and this idea is pretty cool. I mean, you still see games today like Mario Wonder using this idea, so clearly it's a good one. The goal in each level is to find a key, and although the key is not usually that hard to find, sometimes just being in the open, the exploration in these levels genuinely took me aback for the Virtual Boy. If you put this in grayscale and told me it was a Game Boy game, and conveniently left out the 3D aspects of it, I'd believe you. There's good level design, fun bosses, cute minigames. This is an amazing adventure that I urge any Wario fan to give a try if you have a chance. I really enjoy the flame power-up, which literally just lets this dragon on Wario's head breathe fire and defeat pretty much any enemy. The first boss here takes really good advantage of the background and foreground, and honestly I had a pretty tough time with it, all things considered. At the end of the day, for a console as poorly remembered as the Virtual Boy, I'm surprised Wario Land isn't brought up more in conversations. It's a great game with a lot of fun elements. Of course, there's the North American pack-in title, Mario's Tennis, and this one's a bit disappointing. Just like most Virtual Boy games, although the 3D effect is used well, there's just not much to this one outside of that, and I think that's largely why this was a pack-in title for North America. You basically play tennis, and that's it. The only real thing this game has going for it is that it's technically the first Mario Tennis game, as this was released 5 years prior to Mario Tennis on the N64, but who really cares? I played this one for about 15 minutes before I felt like I'd experienced everything it had to offer. The character selection is bad, the maps are boring, and why does Mario look like that? Finally, we have Galactic Pinball. And you know what? I really like this one. VR pinball is something I didn't really think would be that cool, because really, how different could it be from playing on an actual pinball machine in real life? Well, the answer is red. But in reality, it felt really cool to actually be in a pinball machine, as weird as that sounds. And the different machines you can play, along with the cool sci-fi atmosphere, made it one of the most enjoyable Virtual Boy games I've played. Also, Samus randomly shows up in a level for some reason, along with a rendition of the prologue theme from Super Metroid, so that's pretty cool. In the end, this is a really unique pinball game that actually takes advantage of the console's mechanics. I would, just like Wario Land, recommend this to anyone who has access to a Virtual Boy. And those are the big hitters, at least in my opinion for the system. But while we have time, I do want to do a speed round of the rest of the North American titles. So 3, 2, 1, here we go. 3D Tetris. It's fine, but really disorienting, and honestly just makes me want to play regular Tetris where everything isn't red and makes me want to throw up. Red Alarm. It looks like this. Seriously, I get they were just trying to make a cool 3D game in 3D, but it just ends up looking like a bunch of nothing, and even looking at this in 2D is awful. Golf. It's just golf, but virtual. The depth of the 3D makes seeing where your ball goes cool, and makes lining up shots a bit easier, but there are a lot better golf games out there. Jack Bros. This is a spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei series where you play as one of the 3 Jack brothers. It's a maze game, so get ready to hate yourself by the end of it and probably want to throw up. The depth is used pretty okay here, but outside of showing you what's next, it doesn't really do much. The game will also cost you over $1,000. Nestor's Funky Bowling. It's a Virtual Boy bowling game with some silly animations and a quirky character, not much else to say. Panic Bomber. A spin-off of the Bomberman series, I have no idea why they decided to make this for the Virtual Boy. It's a puzzle game similar to Dr. Mario, but with bombs. Again, there is virtually, see what I did there? Nothing this game adds by being on this console. Telero Boxer. Okay, this one is pretty cool. Basically, it's a VR boxing game and one of the very few games on the system to take full advantage of the 2 D-pads, with each D-pad controlling a respective arm of your character. This one actually benefits a lot from being on the system, as not only do you feel it when you get punched, leading to many people probably flinching a lot playing this, the depth is also really cool. Vertical Force. This is a scrolling shoot 'em up similar to Galaga, in which you can switch from being in the background and foreground to get certain enemies. It's a cool time sink. Virtual League Baseball. It's baseball? Well, it's baseball with the really cool effect of actually being able to properly judge where the ball is at and when it's coming towards you. It makes it really easy to plan your shots, and it's super satisfying to hit the ball. And that's the entire Virtual Boy North American library. A pretty weird and expensive collection to complete, with a lot of people skipping Jack Bros due to its absurd price. I think it's really fun to look at these games, even if a lot of them are really bad. It's just a weird piece of Nintendo history, but a fun one. Moving on, as a lot of you may know, during a recent Nintendo Direct, Nintendo announced that Virtual Boy would be coming to Switch Online, with it requiring you to buy an $100 Virtual Boy shell that aims to replicate the gameplay of the original. Why they are doing this, I have no idea. But the thing comes out in February, so if you're watching this video past then, I really wonder if it sold well at all. Seriously, what was Nintendo thinking? Oh yeah, let's just resell one of our worst selling products ever and see if it hits this time. Anything but putting DS games on Switch too. The Virtual Boy is a weird system. That goes without saying. It was made by an outside company who sold the technology to Nintendo, only for Nintendo to remove one of the coolest features of that system, the head tracking, and keep the red LED because it was cheap. Its library is very hit or miss. You have absolute gems like Wario Land, but then games like Red Alarm and Mario's Tennis that are honestly embarrassing. Its controller is weirdly well made. It's ergonomic and genuinely good for long use. But the console itself requires you to either lay flat on your back with the thing balancing on your head like a watermelon, or destroy your neck by bending down to see through it. Alongside that, the headaches and eye strain this caused people will never not be funny. Like, Nintendo had to know this was the case because they rigorously tested the thing, but still pushed it out early because they wanted the N64 to get more attention. In the end, I think Nintendo learned a lot from the Virtual Boy. They learned that rushing something out just because it's novel doesn't mean it's gonna do well. They also learned that if you're gonna make a console like this, it has to have a sustainable and good library, and not a bunch of gimmicky time sinks that last 30 minutes. I genuinely think Nintendo could have a future in VR if they really tried. Like, imagine a VR Zelda game where you can actually swing with your sword or light torches. A VR Metroid game where you can physically aim where you're shooting. There's a lot of potential, and I think without the Virtual Boy, they would have never learned the lessons they'll need if they decide to get into VR again. So while it was a disaster, it's still an important part of Nintendo and gaming history as a whole. And I'll always appreciate what the system stood for, even if it gave me a migraine.